Hello, this is Yogan. I'm making a video. Um, so I watched this, not watched. There's this, I want to call it like a radio, well, not sure what to call it, but there's this very interesting audio recording. Just listen to. It's called Violence Begets Violence. Um, it was done by Marlene Vargas de Lorenzo, where she speaks about this point of violence leading to violence, and it's all part of this movement called Democracy Against War Now. There's a Facebook group, it's called Dawn, DAWN, War No More. So I would suggest listening to this audio recording. I'm making this video because of the audio recording, because I wanted to share my perspective on that for myself and to just share that. So I wrote down something, you could say I wrote down my thoughts on this, and so I'll read it to you guys within me explaining the point, obviously. So yeah, with this phrases, these words, war, violence, violence begetting violence. The word begetting means leading to. So this reminded me of this video game that I found online, maybe 8 years ago, many years ago, I would say. And shut up, come on. And so in this town, you see townspeople walking around, and your job is to bomb the terrorists. So you see this little picture of these characters of they're supposed to be terrorists walking around town. What's interesting about the game is that every time you would bomb a terrorist, the townspeople around there who witnessed the bombing would kneel down and cry, and they would then in turn become terrorists themselves, presumably because they were so distraught of what they witnessed that they wanted, to become terrorists to fight against the people who just killed those people in the town. So basically this game would continue like this. The more you'd bomb people, the more terrorists would be created. So it actually turned out to be quite an educational game, which was really cool to find that. And yeah, there's no way you could win the game. All you do is just create more and more terrorists. So this speaks exactly to the point that Marlene was speaking about in her radio recording, and how violence always leads to violence, and she speaks from the point where it's so completely obvious, which I agree with completely. Yet at the same time, from how I live my life, I can understand some of the reasons why people see violence as okay or acceptable, or when war is acceptable. And it does take a bit of understanding why we see that to really release that point. So like this video game shared, if you're unaware of this point, if you're living in the United States, then you're most likely unaware of the point. But pretty much every other country in the world, the majority of the countries in the world that are not United States, have a resentment or an anger, or have a negative opinion or view of the United States. And this has to do in large part with how the United States military has operated throughout the recent years throughout the world. Most Americans aren't aware of the military activity that the United States has taken on across the world, across South America, the Middle East, but also other places as well, Africa especially. And so there are all these people who are aware of these points across Europe, across the world, the Middle East world, South America. They're not. I want to say they're not stupid, meaning they remember when something horrible happened to them, and that involved the United States military. And of course, this is something that Americans know about because it's not really shown in our media. Whatever the case may be, even if you have difficulty hearing this, you can just look at all the countries that have very negative opinions of the United States. And they will reference the United States military for whatever reason. So, just to speak on that point, whenever, it doesn't matter who, if somehow someone kills your parents or someone you know, your family members, someone you love, you're going to have resentment towards the people who did that. You want to almost have vengeance in a way. In which one thing that I observed within our media, within our fantasy stories, our fantasy movies, our TV shows, the majority of entertainment produced today contain violence. And if you observe in detail how these movies are made, you'll see that in detail the way the actors are acted, the way that things are choreographed, the way that the lighting is set, the way that the music is set, the way that the story is written, the way that everything is placed so that the absolute perfect circumstance is given that creates an excuse as a circumstance as to why violence is acceptable. For example, the case of the most classic story of all, the one that we're all familiar with, the good guy and the bad guy. We all know that story, where the bad guy does some bad things, and the good guy is therefore justified to go track down the bad guy, fight him, in some cases kill him, or punish him, or cause pain to him, or suffering to him. So the bad guy gets what he deserves. We all know the story, but let me ask you this. How many stories do you know where the good guy forgives the bad guy asks for forgiveness, the bad guy corrects his wrongdoings, and the bad guy receives support from not only the good guy but from everyone else to support him to change his behavior, to change his thinking patterns, change who he is so that he does better? How many stories do you know of that, whether in your own personal life, real life, in movies or TV shows, or in any situation? Maybe you think of one or two examples, or maybe you don't think of any because the majority of stuff out there, our experiences, our relationships with people in school, in our life, in our work, everyone, our family members. Forgiveness is something that we do. Even though if we were the bad guy, if we were in that situation, when we make mistakes, wouldn't we want to be forgiven? Wouldn't we want to forgive ourselves and correct ourselves to become better, rather than being punished, rather than being killed, rather than being isolated and all these painful situations? Like, would you rather change with forgiveness, or would you rather be punished and remain the same? Which would only lead to more suffering, wouldn't it? And more pain. So that's why it's like movies are a reflection of who we are, isn't it? That all the movies that exist, the way that they're created, the stories of punishment, of vengeance, of violence, they all reflect who we are, right? I mean, because we aren't actually living within forgiveness. We're not actually living within that point of, I want to say the word humanity, the humanity that doesn't exist, that hasn't existed, the humanity that isn't referred to as human nature today, where human nature today is referred to as humans being violent, humans finding violence and desiring violence. That's what human nature is normally considered today, is that. but we all, I want to say this, that we all know that there is a humanity that is not that. That is not violence. That is forgiveness. That we're capable of being and doing. I look within the example of parents with children, that the struggle they go through to bring a child into this world, all the effort they place. I mean, that's like a spark of humanity to even bring a life into this world, right? Even though we don't continue with that, even though it gets lost along the way, it's there. It's like within all of us, that point. Um, and if you were the good guy, the one who, let's say, isn't bad, wouldn't you want yourself to forgive and to assist and support those who need support, who ask for support, who are asking for change, and even to be shown a forgiveness that they haven't known? So this whole good guy killing the bad guy, punishing the bad guy, this whole stories we play out, the violence, the wars, as long as we accept and allow resentment within ourselves, jealousy, anger, hatred, fear, as long as we accept all these points within ourselves, war will continue to exist outside of us as well as inside of us. So it all starts with ourselves and how we relate to one another, with one another. And I just want to say thanks for the Dawn group, which is an acronym for Democracy Against War Now. It's a Facebook group. They also have their blog online called War No More at wordpress.com. I'll put this information below, and along with the recording that led to me to make this video by Marlene. And yeah, hope you enjoyed my video. I know it was a bit slow. That's just how it had to be, I guess, for me to do this. So, catch you next time.